Richard Stolle has spent a lifetime as one of the nation's foremost journalists. As a reporter for Life magazine, Stolle immersed himself in the incendiary politics of the South during the civil rights struggle and the battle for integration. And he was also the man who bought the Zapruder film for Life magazine shortly after the John F. Kennedy assassination, a tale you can find online at our YouTube page. Here's NMF correspondent Gwyneth Dolan with Richard Stolle.
Dick Stolle, thank you for being with us here today.
My pleasure.
I want to start off by talking a little bit about your time covering the civil rights era. You were posted down in the South in the late 1950s, and I heard you speak recently about an incident that stuck in my mind. Take us to Charlotte, North Carolina in 1956 and the integration of the high school there.
One very young, tall black girl integrated that high school. Usually the NAACP would send in 3 or 4, so there would be some sense of camaraderie. In this, one girl and a high school, they usually went into elementary schools. High school meant teenagers, it meant sex, it meant all the problems that white Southerners saw among blacks. This girl walked up and boys began surrounding her. The security there was very lax. The Charlotte police were back sort of in the shadows, and these boys ran up to her and began spitting. And I was standing or walking right behind her, and I suddenly realized that the two of us were being inundated with this teenage spit. I have to say it was one of the most disgusting experiences I've ever seen. But for her, this was their classmate coming in, being covered head to foot. She had a pretty dress which was getting wet because of the spit. It was a horrifying experience, and that Dorothy Counts, this young, pretty girl, had this look of absolute pride, defiance that she wasn't even going to look at the boys who were spitting on her. It was an extraordinary experience, but very costly. 3 or 4 days later, she dropped out and went to another school out of state.
You told us another story in Santa Fe recently about being in, I think it was Tennessee, after a lynching.
That was in Mississippi.
In Mississippi.
When you say lynching, think Mississippi, not so much Tennessee. Poplarville, Mississippi, they incarcerated a black man with charges of attempted rape, I think it was, which was ridiculous. There may have been some kind of menacing. He was drunk, is what happened. And a mob came into the jail that night, up to the 2nd floor, pulled him up by his legs, his head banging on the steps, because next day when we covered it, you could still see the blood stains on the steps. And they took him out to the Pearl River. They were going to castrate him, but a car came along at that moment, so they shot him in the head and threw him into the Pearl River. And we arrived there the next day. And within 2 or 3 days, the FBI, which came in after the press, Southerners hated the press, but they hated the FBI even more. You tend to look like an FBI because you always wore a coat and tie. They solved it. They solved the mystery. They knew who did it. And there were never any indictments whatsoever. You couldn't get an indictment for that kind of crime then.
Now, witnessing this stuff firsthand, you were a reporter for Life magazine, so you had to write these stories and you had photographers with you. One of the principles of journalism is objectivity. But you must have had very complex feelings. Was it hard to try to strive for objectivity?
Well, when you were trying to interview someone who had just lynched a black man, it was a little hard to be attain objectivity, but you had to be courteous because they wouldn't talk to you otherwise. I mean, they hated Life magazine because we not only told what happened, we ran pictures of what happened, and it was extraordinarily mortifying for them and for other Southerners. But the objectivity, Life magazine then had an editorial page, so we could say on the editorial page how we felt about the integration of public schools, and we were for it. But when you went out, you would find people who were in the South, and it was one of the fascinating things about working in the South. The Southerners were very torn about this, and I used to call them the good Southerners and the bad Southerners, and there were a lot more good Southerners than were bad. The bads were the one who went into the jail. The goods, you read about it in Life magazine the next week and were humiliated by the news. So the objectivity was, even in the worst of circumstances, like the stories I've described, was to show what happened, but don't inflame it with words, don't inflame it with pictures that made it worse than it was. I think journalists have a sense of fairness about them, or they got out of the business, I think. And that was what we always tried to tell ourselves. We had to be fair. That's not always the same as objective, but we had to be fair. We had to show the other side of it, which we did, and I knew in the end the good people of the South were going to win, and they did.
Did you have a sense at the time? I mean, obviously you knew these were important stories, and Life invested a lot of time and manpower and money in covering these things. But did you realize at the time the impact of what was happening, or did it dawn on you later?
We knew it at the time. I mean, when I was down there, I look back at those 4 years down there as having changed my life, but when I was down there, I mean, we're in Poplarville, Mississippi, and a lynching is taking place. And I said, this is going to be news all over the world, that there has been another lynching in Mississippi. And we have to cover this, we have to cover it well and fairly and all the rest. Oh, I knew what we were on to, and we were living in the South. Other publications, networks and all, they'd parachute people in for the big stories. We lived there. We lived among Southerners. We had to justify ourselves on weekend parties among Southerners. And it was a life-changing experience, and I knew every minute of the time I was down there that my life was being changed.
Do you think there's an equivalent story of this era right now?
Not one that captures the imagination of the country and in many ways the world. I mean, many great stories and all the rest, but now again, I was in the South, and for us it was the all-consuming story. A lot of things were going on in the rest of America that, but there isn't that story that captures the morality of the country in a way that race does. Race is the American story in the world, and it's been the story of America from the beginning, and in many ways it still is. And that, the desegregation of the public schools was a huge kind of rallying point, and there's nothing that I'm aware of now that captures that kind of attention.
How does immigration compare?
Immigration has so many. I mean, down here, we think of immigration. We think of Hispanics. That, as far as we're concerned, that's the only immigration story there is. You go to the Northeast, they're getting immigrants from Europe, and their attitude toward it is totally different. And in some ways, being in the Southwest and the immigration story here now, in some ways, captures public attention the way the school situation in the South did when I was down there. Doesn't have quite the sort of constitutional and moral implications that integration did.
You know, back in this time that we're talking about, Life was a weekly magazine with huge circulation, very well known for these in-depth stories and coverage and stunning photography. But, you know, it's gone now. And we have a very different media landscape. We still have big newspapers and big television stations that were around then, but now we have Twitter, and we have you know, eyewitness accounts from cell phones on YouTube, and we have online news organizations and blogs and things like that. Are these folks, the journalists of today, are they doing justice to the major stories of our time?
Sometimes. The professional the problem, I mean, the idea that everybody is a journalist today, baloney. No, you're not, folks, you're not. You and I are, and many others, but we understand what journalism means. Citizen journalists often simply want to get something off their mind. That's perfectly okay. Everybody is a publisher in many ways today, but not everybody is a journalist. A journalist is someone who takes his or her job seriously, who strives for accuracy and the truth and fairness and checking, and wants to make sure if it goes out there with his or her name on it or not, that it is as true as we can make it. And that kind of obligation and dedication is not as current and as much out there as I wish it were.
There are a lot of reasons to be pessimistic about the state of journalism now. You know, there are many, many, many fewer jobs than there were, fewer outlets. We have fewer people covering the stories that we all know are important, and the finances of the industry are looking dim. Are there things that you see out there now that give you hope, that you see as positive steps that can do it justice or save us all?
Well, you're here. That's one thing. Well, I'm mostly, I've worked on newspapers and certainly done television, but I'm in the magazine business. Magazine business was facing obliteration 10 years ago. It's beginning to come back. I mean, magazines are born and die. That's going to happen no matter what we do. But magazines, through print and through their digital efforts, the fact is, in magazine business, 87% of the money that magazine makes comes from print. So you cannot kiss off print because that's where the dough is coming from. But you have to move into the digital side, into the tablets and handheld, even into laptops, although that's the handheld is what's taking over now. You've got to be conscious that a whole new generation is coming up that may not want to read print, but they're going to read, or they're going to absorb information, and we have to figure out how to bring that absorption about. And if it's like this, then we have got to do the news on this. If it's tablets, that. But, and the magazine business, the whole journalism business is doing an extraordinary job. I mean, we were fumbling around 10 years ago. We're not anymore. We know what needs to be done, and we know how to do it, and we ask for patience and the resources to do it, because the American people are going to suffer if we don't.
You know, speaking of pessimism and obstacles, and we just have about 1 minute left, but I wanted to ask you about your thoughts on the Obama administration's request for all these phone records from the Associated Press. How does this strike you, especially as someone who lived through the Nixon era as a reporter?
I am absolutely outraged. What the hell is Obama doing? I mean, he used to preach transparency and First Amendment and freedom of the press and all the rest, and now he's going after journalists in a way that no other American president has ever done. Come on, Obama, calm down. This is the one business that the hard-headed businessmen and farmers in 1776, the one business that they wanted to have constitutional protection for. And that's why the First Amendment is there, Mr. Obama, read the First Amendment again, please.
As a constitutional professor, you think he'd have it memorized. Dick Stolle, thank you so much for being with us here today. And for those of you watching, there'll be a little bit more of this on our website.